Yo, once again, it's on. Back at you one more again, Real Kens TV in the house like kitchen sinks. Hopefully you like the video. Feel free to comment. Definitely share. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. And be sure to hit that post notification. So anytime I bring you this action and this heat, guess what? You're amongst the first to receive. Now, with no further ado, let's get into this afternoon's video, if you will. 2:48. Wednesday afternoon, just worked my morning shift. Had a couple hours before I go back to my evening shift. And I was thinking about a story last night, and it really brought me back, to how prison truly is. Now, when I tell my prison stories, once again, it's not to glorify prison. A lot of young people, they think that it's cool to go to prison, get your stripes, man, it's ignorant. Outright ignorant. Prison, once you're in prison, man, you're a zero, man. And that's exactly how they treat you. Now, you're not a zero to your family, to your loved ones, your kids, things of that nature. In the overall scheme of things, you're not a zero. But in prison, that's how they treat you, man. So with that being said, there is a message. This was way back. I want to say, matter of fact, this is my first time ever going to prison. It's a shame that I have to say my first time, because usually when you go to prison, you don't want to go ideally. But if you do go, it's like, okay, I went, I learned my lesson, and then I never went back. Well, unfortunately for me, it took me, a few times. But nevertheless, first time going down to prison, 2001. I was a young fella. Hell, I had never done over 30 days in the county jail. See, a lot of people, they ask me, and they, Real Kens, we want to know more about you. Yeah, people do say that to me. They email me. Sometimes they put it in my comments. Sometimes people call me. Text me. We want to hear more prison stories. We want to hear more about you. I didn't grow up getting into trouble. I never had a juvenile record. I didn't start getting in trouble until, once I stopped going to college. I went to college a couple years, ended up getting sick, had to withdraw, and then that's when it kind of hit the fan. Not exactly right when I withdrew, but, shortly after that. But at any rate, first time going to prison, and as I mentioned, I never did more than 30 days in the county. I was sitting in the county jail, and they called my name one morning. Real Kens, B&B. That's what they say in Kentucky when, you're going to get on that bus. The Grey Goose is what they call it. B&B, we all we get. Shocked me. It really shocked me because I had only been locked up maybe, I don't even know if I had been locked up 30 days at that point. But what had happened was I was on probation, then I caught another case. So as I'm fighting the other case, I was in the county jail. I'm thinking that they were going to allow me to, resolve the other case and then send me to prison. They had other plans for me. They went on and sent me to prison. And I was like, whoa. Again, this was my first time ever going to prison. So they sent me down to prison. And as I've mentioned in previous videos, in Kentucky, they send you to what's called LaGrange, a.k.a. the Rotary Farm. That's where you go, you get processed, you get classified. They do your, all your medical work, dental work, and everything of that nature. Make sure, they want to know everything about you before they send you to whatever facility they're going to send you to. You may be at the Rotary Farm for 30 days. You may be there for 4 or 5 months, 6 months. Depending on what your custody level is. If you're going behind them gates and walls, you're probably going to be there longer, opposed to if you're just going to a work camp of, something of those sorts. So I'm at the Rotary Farm, and I wasn't there long at all, to be honest. Slightly short of 60 days. They classified me. During the time, my pending case that I had, I was resolving the matter. Actually, I had resolved the matter, But the paperwork hadn't arrived back from the Department of Corrections. So guess what? They sent me behind the fence with the, lions, tigers, and birds. First time in prison. So they sent me down, and it's definitely an experience for me. If you've never been to prison, that's a great thing. That's a great thing. But just imagine going in at a young age, and it's kind of like, whoa. It's surreal. It's just like, because you're seeing everything that you've imagined and seen on TV, you're seeing these things, but you're actually seeing them in person. You got gorillas walking around. Dudes walking around without their shirts on, doing push-ups, pull-ups, dips. Dudes playing volleyball, softball, because it's a big old yard. It's a yard, playing basketball, arguing after every play or whatever. Dudes running the track. Everything that you've seen on the prison movies, that's exactly how it was. First time ever being incarcerated, as far as, prison-wise. So I end up meeting a dude, and we from the same hometown, and we gonna call him Jay. R.I.P. Jay. He's no longer with us, but we're gonna call him Jay. And him and I, we became cool, but we were kind of different. Jay was more of a laid back, which I'm laid back too. I'm not getting on here acting as though I'm some wild, firecracker or anything like that, as you all can, pretty much determine if you follow me. But Jay was more of a laid back person, let a lot slide, didn't really say much. And I never will forget, I asked him one day, what you in here for? Now, typically that's a no-no in prison, but once you get close to somebody, y'all get cool, whatever, you might feel comfortable. What you in there for? How much time you got? But generally, you don't want to ask people how much time you got. They have, rather. And Jay had it was something small, 6 or 7 years. Now, when I say something small, that's not to negate the fact that going to prison is, a bad thing. I'm just saying, compared to everybody else, it was relatively small. Hell, I'm in there with dudes that got life. Dudes that got 40 and 50 years, and they got to do 85% of their time. 30 years, and you got to, so to have 5 or 6 years, I guess it's considered small in prison. So something that happened between him and his wife, and he used to he used to drink a lot, and he blooped out one night, and I believe he caught his wife with another dude. And when he walked in, he just went crazy. He grabbed a hammer, hit the dude, or was trying to hit the dude. I guess the dude ran out. I can't remember if he said he actually connected with the dude, but I know that, he definitely tried to hit the dude with the hammer. And he hit his wife a couple times with the hammer. And she spent several weeks in the hospital, and she was messed around as a result. Crazy thing about Jay, he didn't have any criminal records. He had a couple DUIs, because as I mentioned, he liked to drink. But besides that, he didn't have any criminal record. He worked a very good job, which at the time he was making, I think he was telling me $22, $23 an hour. This is 2001. So back then, that was good money. Hell, right now, it's decent money. Decent money. You can get by on it. But nevertheless, him and I, we became cool. We used to walk the track every day. That's a big thing in prison. Dudes walk the track, because there's always a big old track in prison, man. And the track, basically, it surrounds the entire rec yard. So you may have a big old, I guess different prisons are different. So I don't really want to say exactly what it is, because certain prisons within the track, you might have the weight pile, you might have the volleyball, you might have basketball, but other prisons, those activities that you can do may be outside of the track. And on the inside, it's just grass. Where dudes, we call it Peter Beach. Dudes like to go and lay out with their shirts off, trying to get suntans in the summertime, with a little bitty with shorts on, and they pull their shorts up, See what I'm saying? So they can get the suntan, the sunburn, or whatever they call it, on their legs. We call that Peter Beach. You see several dudes just laid out on Peter Beach. Crazy, but definitely true. So we used to walk the track, drink our coffee or whatever. And I was cool with other people too, but I kind of took to Jay because I knew that he wasn't on any foolishness. I wanted to get home. That's your main goal when you go to prison. You want to come home. They had me, actually we ended up in the same dorm because when you first go, they put you in like a dorm for like new arrivals. So you'll stay there maybe 30 days and then they'll send you to wherever you're going to be housed at. Well, they sent me upstairs. When I went upstairs, there was an open unit, an open dorm. They had cubicles. I was in a 2-man cubicle. You see? And the dude they put me in a cube with, it just so happens, me and him grew up together. Grew up playing ball together. Grew up right around the corner from each other. Real cool dude. We never ran and hung out, but, we used to shoot dice. And like I said, we played in the same baseball league. This dude was a beast, man. This dude was a beast. Eric Lyles. I'll say his name. Shout out to Eric Lyles, man. Dude was a beast. Should have went pro. Should have had an opportunity to go pro in baseball right out of high school. But, the politics and things that come with that, he never did. Ended up catching a case. Unfortunately, went to prison. So him and I in the same cell. And Jay, they sent him to the violent cell, to West Dorm. See, when you go to West Dorm, they're 2-man cells. For whatever reason, that was considered the violent dorm. So if you had anything violent, assaults or rapes, or you can kill somebody or something like that, they're going to send you to the violent dorm. Instantaneously, he didn't like it. Because the rest of us, we was all in the open dorm. You see what I'm saying? And it was a lot of us from the same town. We were all in the open dorm. He used to tell me every day, like, man, I'm not really feeling my cellie, man. He always got something to say. He always, he's cool one minute, and then the next minute, he has a problem with me, no matter what I do. And that's how it be when you in a cell with somebody. Because just imagine, if you're in a cell with somebody in prison, this is partially what makes prison so dangerous. Because people wake up in bad moods. You may be cool one day. Yesterday, y'all was joking and playing, and the day you wake up on the wrong side of the bed. Or you get a bad letter. Or you have a bad phone call. Or your people don't come on visit. Your girl don't, she's not answering the phone. Or, she was supposed to come to visit and she doesn't. There's all type of things that go through your mind when you locked up in prison. So just because you played yesterday don't mean that you're going to play today. There's a term in prison that they use in Kentucky. I don't play every day. And that's a real live term. So it's best not to play at all. I don't play every day. So, a couple weeks goes past or whatever. A couple months goes past. And he's telling me, the little run-ins him and his cellmate is having. He goes to the caseworker. He requests to be moved. Well, if he doesn't give them a legitimate problem other than we're just not, seeing eye to eye, what have you, they're not just going to move you. In this particular situation, they didn't. I never will forget, he told me, we were walking the loop as we normally do, and he said, man, I got to get out of that cell. He said, I have to get out of that cell because if I don't, something either going to happen to me or something's going to happen to him. Now, mind you, just because this guy's a laid-back type of guy, he wore glasses, he's still in there for a violent assault. And the only reason that he only ended up with 5 or 6 years is because he was married, and they reduced his charges. I believe he went to trial, and they convicted him, but they convicted him on, it's like a crime of passion. Because he was married, and he walked in on his wife and, another dude, the time that he normally would have received, if it wasn't his wife, it was reduced drastically. Like, he probably would have got 20 years, 15, 20 years, in which he would have had to have done 85% of his time. But he got a regular 5, I think he got 5 years. He got a regular 5 years in which he did 20% of his time. And then he went to go see the parole board. Had an opportunity to get out, which he didn't, but still he had an opportunity to get out. He said something's got to give in this cell, man. I was like, man, I didn't really know what to tell him, because the guy that was in the cell with him, I didn't know him, but we from the same state. He's just from a different city. I had already seen him hit somebody with a lock and a sock, which you take a combination lock that they give everybody, you put it in a sock, and I had seen him hit somebody with the lock and a sock, busted him up pretty good. So I knew that he was dealing with a violent individual. So I'm like, man, the only thing I can tell you, man, just keep working them caseworkers, trying to get out of there, man, and protect yourself at all times, man. Like they tell you in boxing, protect yourself at all times. Keep your eye open. Keep the conversation minimum between you all. Keep the plan down, and just, one day I come out on the yard, and they was like, yo, you see your boy Jay? I'm like, nah, I ain't seen him today yet. It was like, man, he's effed up. What you talking about? What do you mean? What happened? He walked out of the dorm, and he's walking the yard, and he got blood all over his uniform. The uniforms they give you in prison are khaki uniforms. Button down shirt, khaki pants. You got to have your belt on or whatever. You got some black state boots. Now, if you have money, you can buy you some all whites, tennis shoes. But that's the uniform that they provide you with. Said, man, he's missing like 2 teeth. He's bleeding. His head is bleeding. He got blood all over his uniform, man. He's in disarray. He don't know what's going on. So I'm like, whoa. They say Jay was in medical. So I knew that I wasn't going to be able to, talk to him or see him or what have you until he came out of medical. I don't see Jay the rest of that day. I end up seeing him like the next day. And I'm like, yo, what happened, man? He was like, man, he said, dude accused me of breaking his television. I said, accuse you of breaking his television? I said, how could he possibly accuse you? Do you watch his TV? He said he let me watch his TV. He always told me that I could watch his TV. He said because the dude was like flip-flopped. He was kind of like bipolar. He acted one way one minute, and the next minute he's acting cool. So he said he told me one day, hey, man, you can, he was leaving the cell. He was like, man, I'm going to leave my TV on, man. You can watch the TV, watch whatever you want. Everything's cool. I'm about to go out on the yard. So he said, man, I watched the TV for a little bit before I, came out on the yard. He said when he came back in the cell later on, he told me that I broke the button on his TV so that he couldn't turn the TV on and off. He said, man, I never even touched the button on the TV. He said, I never touched the button. The dude told me that I broke his television. That right there is one of the games that people run in prison, man. There's a lot of games that people run in prison. See what I'm saying? They'll tell you can borrow their CD player, radio, TV, or whatever. And then if they sense that you're weak, you might not be weak, but they may sense that you're weak because you laid back, cool, calm, collective, whatever. Bro, you broke my TV, man. And that's what happened in this particular situation. You broke my TV. So we're going to handle it one of 2 ways. Will Fleece Johnson say we're going to do it the easy way, or we're going to do it the hard way? But we're going to do it. Shout out to Fleece Johnson. 502 Hustle Spirit, man. Y'all go check him out, man. Big Lee, Fleece Johnson, Louisville, Kentucky. But he was telling Jay, like, listen, man, get your people on the phone and have him send me a $250 money order to get me a new TV. Otherwise, man, it's going down. Jay's like, bro, I didn't break your TV. I don't know what you own, but I'm not getting my people on the phone to do anything. Remember, Jay, he kind of violent too. He done smacked a couple people in the head with a hammer. Not making fun of the situation or whatever, but it is what it is. That's what happened. Jay says, I'm not getting my people to send you anything. I didn't break your TV. In fact, I never even touched your TV. I turned the TV off. No, he said he never even turned the TV off because, in prison at the time where we was at, believe it or not, you couldn't have remote controls. So when you ordered your television, they would take your remote. Don't know why. I think it was because people like to play games and turn other people's TVs off and stuff like that. But they were in a individual cell or a two-man cell. So I never really understood why you couldn't have remote controls. But at the time, you weren't allowed to have a remote control. So the dude was saying, I can't even watch my TV because you broke it. My TV won't turn on. Or I can't turn my TV off. It was something to the sorts because you had to have your TV off by a certain time. 2:30 a.m. I think that was the time when your TVs had to be off. As I was mentioning, Jay wasn't hearing it. Man, I'm not telling my people to send nothing. I don't know what happened to your TV. I didn't even touch your TV. I didn't even ask you. You asked me, did I want to watch the TV? I watched the TV. Yes, I changed the channel to watch something that I wanted to watch. I didn't touch the power button. Dude wasn't trying to hear none of that. So they arguing back and forth. Jay said he turned around to grab something out of his locker. Now, in the prison cell, if you've never been to prison, I don't remember the sizes, but they're relatively small. You got two men in a space that's barely large enough for one person, let alone two. Jay said he turned around to grab something out of his locker. Next thing you know, he gets hit in the back of the head. Dude done put a can of chili. Back then, they sold the cans. Now they sell pouches. But back then, they sold them big cans of chili. He done put it in a sock. Bam! Hit my man's Jay in the back of the head. He said when he hit him, he was kind of like, he was surprised. He was in disarray. He still had full consciousness, but he was, if you ever been in a fight before, or if you ever been struck, hit unexpectedly, or you fighting a dude that really just got hands and he late, you kind of in disarray sometimes. So he said he hit him, he reached back, grab the back of his head, hit him again, BAM! Turned around, dude hit him. I guess he had dropped the can of chili. He's BAM, 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 and that's how he lost his teeth. He couldn't even really defend himself because he's in full disarray. He done got hit upside the head 2 times with a big, thick, heavy can of chili and a sock, wrapped in a sock. So dude had the sock wrapped around his hand. Bam! Bam! From behind. Pause. So like I said, dude turns around, he's hitting him or whatever. He tells me he's finally able to manage his way out of the cell. He said that's the only reason that he left the cell, because he felt like dude would have potentially killed him in there. So he leaves the cell, he's walking out. I guess the CO and the guard tower, maybe he wasn't there or he didn't actually see him, because there's no way that the CO would have allowed him, the correction officer, there's no way that he would have allowed him to walk out of the dorm under those conditions, if you will. So he makes his way out of the dorm and he's walking on the yard and he's just imagine like he's just staggering, like blood covered. They said he had blood all over, like literally covering his entire khaki uniform. His face is all messed around. He tried to put his glasses back on, but he, when you're trying to put your glasses on and his glasses was all turned sideways and he's walking around like, the first thing people say, oh man, he's quiet snitching. Why is he walking on the yard? He's supposed to go clean himself up. You know what I'm saying? Man, listen, man, ain't nobody trying to hear all that bullshit. Ain't nobody trying to hear all that. First of all, dude is in total disarray. He don't even know where he gonna clean up at. He gonna stay in the cell with a dude, a maniac that's trying to kill him? I'm not gonna say he's trying to kill him, because I'm quite sure that if he wanted to kill him or hurt him even worse, he could have. So dude's walking around on the yard, man, and he's just totally messed around, man. So as I mentioned, I didn't see him that day. I just heard about it. Because, in prison, you have yard time, and then you have, you got locked down, and you can't just go out at any time. So I ended up seeing him the next day. It was the next day or maybe 2 days later. And, that's how I learned of exactly what happened. And I'm just like, whoa, man. He was like, man, I never even seen it coming. He said, because me and dude, we would go through it, but he would always kind of do it in a playful manner. I never knew that it was really that serious, even though he told me we gonna end up getting into it. I never knew, he was saying this, I never knew that it was that deep. Basically, dude was trying to extort $250 out of him. Have his people send it to him in the form of a postal money order. Back then, you had to send postal money orders. And when he said no, dude was just like, okay, let's get it. What's so crazy, the dude that did it, he didn't even have that much time either. I think he had maybe 7, 8 years, maybe 10 at the most. See, in Kentucky, you don't do all of your time unless you're in there for a violent offense. So, I don't think he was probably going to do maybe 4 or 5 years on that sentence that he had. Those be the ones that be the most violent that I've seen. You would think that the people that have life sentences or the people that have 30 and 40 years at 85%, man, it'd be the people with small time that be in there wilding out. Believe it or not. They'd be the ones that's just whatever. And the dude ended up getting locked up. My partner said that he didn't testify. He didn't say anything. But, the people kind of put 2 and 2 together. Like, okay, once they went back, looked at the cameras, they see you coming out of the cell. You got blood all over you. How else did this happen? So they end up locking the dude up. And, of course, once they locked him up, they're not going to put him back out on the same yard as Jay. So Jay stayed. That dude got transferred, I don't know, probably to Eastern or Eddyville. Somewhere like that. Those are like, at the time, those were like 2 of the worst prisons that they have here in Kentucky. Eastern is still, not a good place to go to. None of them are, but definitely Eastern. And Eddyville is where Fleece Johnson did a lot of his time, and that's the home of Death Row. So I would imagine that he went to one of those 2 places. And it just goes to show, man, Jay, I'm sorry, he healed up. Eventually, he got well, he got back. Nobody really bothered him again after that. He didn't have any problems. He ain't had no problems in the first place. It was just with the dude. Dude, I think anybody they moved in this cell, he was going to have an issue with. Because the dude that I originally seen him hit with the lock and sock, he was a cool dude. He didn't bother nobody, man. But he wasn't no pushover either. Dude knew it, so he grabbed the lock and the sock and he hit him with it. But it just goes to show, man, prison is a very dangerous environment. No matter how cool you are, laid back you are, how much you try to just kind of mind your own business, not bother anybody, man, somebody's always going to try you in prison. Always. If you're there long enough, somebody's going to try you. Now, if you're in a situation where you deep, people know you and your car, your clique or whatever. But Jay, he never been in trouble a day in his life other than a couple of DUIs. Had a very good job. He had been in his job 7, 8 years. I remember he told me he had to cash out his 401k plan. He had like 40,000 in his 401k. He was a guy that was doing well in life. He had a drinking problem. And he was having, I guess that resulted in some marital issues at home. And next thing you know, he's in prison. That's how quickly your life can change. So when you out here, man, you have an opportunity to do the right thing in life, man. Just do the right thing, man. I know it's going to get tough on you sometimes. It's definitely going to get difficult. You're going to have situations that, things are not going in your favor. And you just going to feel like, man, I give up. Or, I'm jumping back in the game. I'm going to go do some dirt. Understand that when you do that and you end up getting caught, you just made your situation 10 times worse. You've magnified it. Because the same money that you didn't have out here on the streets, guess what? You're not going to have in prison. People get tired of sending you money and coming to visit you and accepting your calls and sending you money for stamps. And people get tired of that, man. And your mother may ride with you. And even she's going to get tired of it at some point. She always going to love you. But sometimes she has to show that tough love. You out here in these streets, man, consider this story. And don't think that you so tough that it ain't gonna happen to me, man. Jay was weak. I don't mean Jay was weak. It just means that there's tough guys everywhere. There's bullies everywhere, especially in prison. They sense weakness. They think they can get over on you. They think that you soft or whatever, they're gonna try you. And whatever happens at that point, happens. It's a sad situation, man. That guy didn't bother nobody. Nobody. Mannerable, polite, excuse me. Just in the cell with a hot head. Jay went on to serve his 5-year sentence out. I believe they made him do 3 years on it before he came home. Corresponded with each other. We used to write because I ended up getting sent to a work camp. Maybe after about 9 months, they sent me to a work camp. So, we would write, from time to time. But you know how it is once you hear and they're there, but we did correspond. And he got out a little bit before me, and I didn't really hear much from him. And when I came home, I got the sad news that he had passed away. I forget exactly what happened. But I remember a lot of those walks that we had on the loop, on the track. We would just talk about life, what we were going to do when we got out, how we missed our kids, how we missed our family, the mistakes that we weren't going to make anymore. And unfortunately for Jay, he didn't really have an opportunity, even though he did get out. It wasn't shortly after that he passed away. Cherish your life. Understand that every day that you wake up, thank whoever your higher power may be that you woke up, because tomorrow's truly not promised. We don't know if we're going to wake up tomorrow. We have no clue. We hope we do, but we have no clue, man. Stay out of prison, man. Youngsters, anybody really, but you youngsters, man, I'm telling you, man, the life that you living, if you out there in them streets, you're going to die or you're going to go to prison, man. I know it sounds kind of cliche. You hear it all the time. You're going to die or you're going to go to prison. Those are the two options. This is not the movies. To one of the movies, the dope dealer, he stacks a few $1 million, puts it up and buys his mom's a house and makes sure his kids are good. Then he kind of goes into a different business. No, this is not, it's definitely not the movies, man. Gangsters don't live that long, and half people out here ain't even gangsters anyway, man. Just portraying that image. You're going to die young, or you're going to end up in prison with a whole lot of time, or you're going to be a repeat offender rather, and keep going back until eventually one of those two things that I mentioned, die, or you're going to get a life sentence, or have a very hefty sentence to where essentially it is a life sentence. Ain't no sense of going to prison. I got my GED. I graduated masonry. I graduated electricity school. I'm an electrician now, or I'm a journeyman. Man, you can do all that out here. Yes, cool to better yourself when you're in there if you find yourself in that situation. But why do you have to go to prison to do that? You can do that out here, man. Get yourself a trade. Things are not going well for you in life. Sit back, evaluate your situation, understand exactly what you don't like about your life. You're going to have your job. Probably 2 jobs, because you're not going to get the best of jobs in the world. But that's cool. That's cool. That's why I wear this all the time. Guess what? Because I'm always at work. I don't have to get on here and look fancy and put on expensive clothes and put on my polo. Yeah, I got that stuff, but for what? I'm trying to show people that it's okay. It's okay to have a job. I don't care if you work at McDonald's. I don't care if you work at Burger King. I don't care if you mopping floors. I don't care if you cleaning toilets. I don't care if you, whatever, cleaning windows, cutting grass, delivering pizzas, delivering food, whatever you got to do to stay out with your family. Because guess what? You're going to do it in prison. The only thing is, in prison, you're going to do it for free. Well, actually, you're not going to do it for free. They're going to give you $20, $25, $26 a month. Work you like work your head off. You can do all these things out here on the streets, man. Stay clear of them prisons. Stay clear of them streets. Stay clear of the graveyard at a young age, man. You know what I mean? Real Kens TV, man. Hopefully you liked the video. Feel free to comment. Definitely share, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed, and be sure to hit that post notification so anytime I bring you this action and this heat, guess what? You're amongst the first to receive. Now, some of you have been like, we want to hear more about you and your stories and your prison. I did that, and I'll continue to do it. But I have to space them out because there's only so many prison stories you can tell. I'm not going to get on here and get the lying and making up stories. Y'all do me a favor. Start sharing my videos. Help this content get out to people that really need to see this. Could you do that for me? Could you do that for me? One time for your mind. Real Kens TV, man. R.I.P. J, man.